Hello everybody, South Butte here again. Thanks for watching. This is the fifth part of a multi-part series where I will be reviewing how I mix my cover of Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive in Cakewalk's SONAR X1 producer. In this part, I will walk you through how I mix keys and strings, and I will be covering the soft synth of Rapture, Zeta 1, true pianos, and studio instrument strings. So let's first start with Rapture, and let me play for you the first part that I did, which is that low keyboard sound that has portamento on it. So let me play this for you in the mix. This is using Rapture. And then let me solo that too. That's the low D part. So I will hit solo and then play that for you here as well. Alright, so for that sound I used Rapture, and if I just double click on here and open up Rapture, this is the instrument window for Rapture, the non-LE version, and I searched a lot for the sound that I thought was the best, and the preset that I used for that was under Pads and Dark Orchestra. And as you can see here, it uses basically 3 envelope generators, and each of them has a different sound. Like the first one has the 010 square MK, number 2 has 009 square Ober, and number 3 has 013 pulse MK. And I don't think I changed anything in particular in these settings to get that specific sound. It just sounds full because it's using 3 envelope generators. And in order to get the portamento sound, I had to do a change on the first envelope generator. Is you basically have to set the polyphony to 0, and I set the porta time, and I think that's in seconds, to 5 seconds. And that allows it to ramp up from a low to a high and do that portamento sound. So let me just solo that for you again with polyphony 0 and with polyphony set to a different setting. So this is with polyphony 0. Okay, and I'm going to change that polyphony setting to 1. And then it won't do that portamento sound. So here goes with polyphony set to 1. And then go back to 0. Show you what that sounds like again. Alright, so as you can see, that allows it to do portamento to get that sound, the way that you want it. So here again, this is the window for Rapture, and there's a lot of different settings you can set from different DSPs, how the waveform ramps up and ramps down. And if you can see here in this track, these are the individual clips for those parts playing at different times. And I don't think actually I used any effects on that at all. So let's click on its track 20. If I look at track 20 here, there are no effects in the effects bin on that one. And as you can see here, I've routed this individual track to the subgroup called low keyboards, and that's this one here. So a low keyboard rhythm. And actually what I did was I did put an EQ, it looks like, here in the effects bin. So let me play that again with the EQ, the Sonitis EQ, on and off, and see how that sounds. So the Sonitis EQ right now is on, and then I'm going to bypass it. That's bypassing, and here's on again. Alright, so that just made that sound shine a little bit more. And as you can see from looking at this equalizer, basically I had increased the bass from about 18 hertz till about 125, and then put another boost starting at about 900, 800 hertz, and boosting that up about actually 10 dB to get the highs to come out a little bit more on that one. So that's essentially what I did for there. And here again, there's a little icon here that looks like a snowflake, and it says freeze synth. And it becomes very important to freeze these tracks, because as you're building a song and you begin to have more and more tracks, it's going to eat up a lot more processing time and power of your PC. So by freezing the track, it writes any envelopes with audio volumes that you're changing and any effects into a WAV file, and just references that WAV file so it can save on the processing power of your computer. And that really helps a lot, because I had delays that were going on because my computer was slow. I was hearing clicks and pops, so it helps with that quite a bit. So let's look at Zeta 1 and what I did for that introductory part using Zeta 1. So let me expand that a little bit here and do a loop in this part. And I'm going to play this for you in the mix. And again, this is using the Zeta 1 synthesizer, soft synth. Alright, so that sound right there is using Zeta 1, and let me open up the soft synth, the Zeta 1. And the preset that I'm using here is in the retro bass, Syntha-Plucka, and it's called Another World. And I think I might have changed some of the parameters around. And if you look at Zeta 2, Zeta 2 has a completely redesigned user interface. But Zeta 1 and Zeta 2, that's my favorite soft synth in SONAR X1 Producer. They have some great sounds, a lot of capability to change the way all these sounds are. And you can have different oscillators as well. So great soft synth. And if you look at the track here, I just kept all the MIDI clips on one track, and routed that to a subgroup as well. If I look here, if I go to Zeta 1, we'll see that that's track number 26. And I routed that to the subgroup called Keyboard Riff. So that's this slider right here. And if you look on that, I use an equalizer as well. And let me play this. We'll play this with the equalizer on and the equalizer off and see if you can hear the difference. So right now, here's playing it with the equalizer on. Now equalizer off. And equalizer back on. So you can see what it did was to make it shine a little bit more, having some more highs so it stands out better in the mix. And I used a high-pass filter starting at 40 hertz. Then at about 207 hertz, I started ramping up to essentially a shelf that had a, let's see, peak of the shelf being about 2K with a 4.8 dB of gain. So that helped me to get that sound to work out. Alright, so let's look at true pianos. Now true pianos only had a very, very small part, which was just right before the solo. So let me get to that part and expand the track out, and just to do a quick loop in this section here so you can hear what that sounds like. Alright, so let me play that part with true pianos. Let me make this sound a little bit larger here, go wider in time. Alright, so for true pianos on that, maybe I can just loop around that real quick here as well. Alright, I think you get the picture. So to have that piano, basically double click on True Pianos in the synth rack, and I used the default piano setting. I think I changed a few of the settings around. I used bright. I have the reverb all the way at 100 and the room size at 100, and I think I pretty much left everything the same. And True Pianos is a really great soft synth. If you click on the advanced interface, it shows you the piano, and it has some really great piano sounds in it. I think it's a really nice soft synth. And if you look here, if I go to pianos, on the track side, I didn't use any effects in the effects bin, and I took the piano and I routed that to a subgroup here, and then in turn routed that piano to all instruments so that I can take that slider on all instruments and adjust the mix of the instruments versus the vocals. So that's what I did for True Pianos. And just real quick, if I open up the step sequencer view, I just went up from basically F in the 7th position all the way up to D8. Just hit that play for you. Just with that one fill before the solo. Alright, so let's look now at studio instrument strings. And I am going to expand that. For studio instrument strings, this is a really nice soft synth as well. They have, if you see the user interface here, they have a bass, a cello, and a violin. And within this instrument, you can adjust the attack, the release, you can tune it, adjust the master volume, the tone, you can add chorus and reverb. And if you hear this, let me just play the cello side, or the bass side. It sounds true to life, sounds very good. Here's cello, then here's the violin. So it sounds great. And as you look in through the different settings, they have a lot of different sounds you can choose from and make adjustments, and you can save those as well. So with Studio Instrument strings for this one, I divided up into many different parts. And by dividing it up into different parts, basically what it allows you to do is adjust the volumes so that you can get it to fit into the mix well and have the proper volume level. And the preset that I use for Studio Instrument strings is the slow pad. So let me play that for you in the mix here. And then I am going to solo that for you. So this is in the mix in this. Let me just do it right before the solo. Alright, so now I'm going to solo it. It's pretty hard to hear there and pull that out, but let me solo this. Alright, and I also did that in the solo. Let me play that in the mix in the solo. It's going to be hard to hear, I think, as well, but then I'll solo it for you. Okay, let me solo it. Alright, so that's it for this part on strings and how I mix the keys and strings all together in this cover, and I will see you on the next segment.